Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. Okay, Michigan Wolverines. I've already talked about Ohio State. Now I'm going to talk about Michigan and what I think of them. They have a new defensive coordinator. They've got a bunch of new starters. They still have Donovan Edwards, Will Johnson. Michigan is Michigan. They've always got talented players. They've actually recruited pretty well in the last few years, more blue chip players to build their program. And they're always well coached. Speaking of coach, though, Jim Harbaugh is no longer there. They do have Sharon Moore. I think he's going to do pretty well. To be honest, I think there's a big possibility that he was already coaching that team more beyond the point of being just the offensive coordinator or the offensive line coach or the play caller, whatever he was last year. He wasn't a head coach. But because Jim Harbaugh probably knew this was it for him, win or lose, I think he was probably letting him be take more responsibility in terms of being the head coach than just what his job title says. A lot of jobs do it all the time. They go above their job title for the experience. So it's a possibility because he coached a bunch of games. But I think Michigan is going to have a bit of a setback this year. Not to the point where they struggle to go to a bowl game or anything like that, but as far as winning 10 games or winning the Big Ten, the playoff, national championship or anything like that, probably not. I mean, because they lost a lot of production. And unlike their previous schedules, they're having a brutal schedule. They're having one of the hardest schedules in the country this year. First off, they start with Fresno State. I think that's a pretty big win for them. They're at home. It's on NBC. They win this game 38-10. I think Michigan's defense holds Fresno State in check. Michigan's offense will be able to run the football effectively. Alex Orji will be able to be the starter, most likely just because he offers more in terms of an athletic quarterback than Warren. And then they come back home for a reality check and take on Texas. Look, if Michigan had their whole coaching staff, their whole team from last year, they could beat anybody in the country. But unfortunately, Texas has most of their players back and Michigan does not. I know it's a home game for Michigan. I think this will be the game where, y'all remember how Jalen Milroe struggled most of the beginning last year at Alabama, but then he clearly progressed and got better as the season went on. And because of how he played, they ended up beating Auburn and Georgia in back-to-back games. The rivalry, and then to get to the college football playoff because they beat Georgia. So I think you'll see a lot of that with Alex Orji. He has played here and there, but he's never been the guy, and I think he's going to be the guy. This game is going to be closer than the score I'm about to give you. 34-17 Texas at Michigan. I think Orji's going to have a few turnovers in this game. Again, he's never really played against a top-tier opponent as the guy, not just a special package or anything like that like he did last year in some games. But he'll make some mistakes and it'll hurt Michigan. Again, I don't think Texas is 17 points better than Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be a great team. But they're going to have to go through some learning pains with a new coach, with new players. Not players, but, new starters. So, give me Texas to win. I think they pull away with Orji's mistakes. I think Michigan's defense makes it tough on Texas. I think Quinn Ewers will not play very good. That's why this game won't be 20, 30-point difference. I actually predict in this game, he's going to be benched because he's not playing very well. Because Michigan will be in this game because of the players and the fact that Quinn Ewers is inconsistent at times. And I think Arch Manning will take his job in this game. And that's when they pull away and win by 17 or maybe more. Then they come back home and they take on Arkansas State. That should be an easy win, 44-10. I don't think they're going to let that Texas loss hurt them too much. Because Texas, I think, is going to be a top 5 team this year. Might make the national championship, might win it all. So, yeah. Then they come back home and take on USC. Very similar loss that they had to Texas, but it'll be a little bit closer. 31-21 USC. Again, I'm assuming Lincoln Riley is going to have that defense playing better than what it ever has. I don't think they'll be elite, but I think they'll be to the point where they can stop teams enough. And I think their offense is going to be very explosive. Look, Lincoln Riley's Lincoln Riley. He's going to have himself an offense. And I know there's a lot of pressure on him to do a lot better than what he did last year. Give me USC to win the turnover battle. Again, I think Orji will play better than what he did against Texas, but he'll still have a turnover here and there, a few misfires, like as far as a passer. But I think you'll see in this game, this is the turning point where he ends up playing a lot better and doesn't turn the ball over and hurt himself as much. And again, USC's offense is explosive. It's going to score on anybody. That includes Michigan. Even last year's Michigan's defense, they would probably score because of how great Caleb Williams was. I know Caleb Williams is gone, but the other guy played pretty good in that bowl game, and I'm assuming he's going to be the starter. I don't follow USC very much, but they lose this game 31-21. Then they go to Washington and Illinois, and then they host Michigan State. They go to Washington. That should be a tough game. Both teams pretty much have a whole new coaching staff, new starters. They go to Washington. They win this game 30-15. They're at Illinois. Illinois is a physical team. They're a very tough Big Ten team that can probably play with anybody. If they're a decent team, I think they'll be better than last year because they didn't make a bowl last year. They struggle. This is a trap game. This could be a game they could lose. And yes, I'm getting the word trap game from Uncle Lou, the great Uncle Lou. He's funny. Shout out to you, man. Yes, I will be betting you at some point this year for our trilogy. They go to Illinois. I think they get the job done. This is a game where I don't think Alex Orji plays bad. I just, sometimes you have players that play good no matter what, but things just don't go their way, if that makes sense. I think this is one of those games. This is a game they could lose. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose. They did struggle with Illinois 2 years ago at home. They're pretty young like they were 2 years ago, but younger than that now. But I think they get the job done. Michigan wins. This is a huge game, a win for them. And then they come back home and take on Michigan State. I know Michigan State's getting some decent players in the portal. They have a new head coach. I think he's going to be really good. But I still think Michigan is better. Just not a whole lot better in terms of elite talent. And the fact that they both have new coaching staffs and all that, that's going to kind of set Michigan back a little bit compared to other previous years. But they should win comfortably, 28-14. I believe they end up having the ball last to go up by 2 touchdowns. I believe this is a game where Orji starts to establish his confidence and play a lot better, and they end up winning. And then they come back home. They stay at home, excuse me. This will be a very tough game. Oregon, I think, is going to be the favorite to win the Big Ten this year. They lose this game at home to Oregon. Now, here's the thing. Alex Orji is going to have his best game by now at this point in the season. He won't be the reason they lose this game. I think he's very productive. He's going to play really good. The reason why I think Oregon's going to be great is because of Dillon Gabriel. He's such a beast. He was so great at UCF. He was great at Oklahoma. Oklahoma won 10 games because of him. I guarantee you they're going to have a hard time doing that with him gone. Such a great dual threat quarterback. Orji at this point is going to figure himself out. The game will have slowed down by now. By the 8th or 9th game in his first year as a starter, if that makes sense. He's going to play really good. I just don't think the Michigan defense can hold up against Dillon Gabriel. But heck, Ohio State's defense is really good. Theirs won't be able to either in that game. That's pretty much what I said would happen. So, give me Oregon. And this is a game Michigan could win. They could pull this off. By now, I think Oregon's a top 10 at worst, top 5 at best team. Probably undefeated, maybe a one-loss team. But I just think Oregon's just a little bit better than Michigan. Whether this game was here or at Oregon, I think it'd be very tough. Give me Oregon 35-31. Michigan loses. But Michigan very well could win this game. They could win this game. And I think they can, but I just wouldn't put my money on it right now. Then they come back. They go back on the road. They take on Indiana. That should be no problem. I know they have a good head coach from James Madison, but it's his first year. Give me Michigan 43-13. They're motivated at this point to finish the season the way they want. And even when this year is over, they're going to have most of those starters back. So that's huge. Then they go back and play Northwestern at home. I think they're looking ahead to Ohio State for next week, but not to the point where they don't play good. I believe they're focused enough. They end up playing a really tough Northwestern team who played really good last year. I was impressed with those guys. 24-17 Michigan. Remember the Maryland game they had last year where they just didn't play very good, but the defense played good enough to win and help them pull away? A similar situation here. And then they go back on the road at Ohio State. A lot of people are picking Ohio State because of the transfer portal, because Michigan's team is basically gone. Starters, you know what I mean by that. I disagree. I got Michigan pulling off a big win at Ohio State. Look, Ohio State's got great players. They've had better players than Michigan in the last several years or whatever. But the key thing has been the line of scrimmage. Michigan has been better on the lines of scrimmage. I'm not calling Ohio State soft, okay? As a fan, I'm going to say that. But realistically, we all know Ohio State's an elite program. They're a great football team. They really don't deserve the criticism they're getting. And you know I like Michigan. I'm being honest here, okay? But listen to this. Turnovers. Michigan won. In the last 3 years that Michigan has beat them. Ohio State, 6 turnovers. 5-6 turnovers, including turnovers on down. Better third down team, Michigan. The team that has run the ball better, Michigan. The team that has probably had better time consumption, being able to keep the other team off the field, Michigan. And the team that has come out on top, Michigan. So again, I think Sherrone Moore is going to be a really good coach. I don't think he's at Harbaugh's level yet, but he's going to be a good coach. And again, I believe he was the head coach, not the head coach, but I believe he was doing a lot of that job, even when Harbaugh was there, taking the credit for it. He was doing a lot of stuff above his job title. So with that being said, I believe Michigan will still run the football good enough. You got a dual threat quarterback that will be able to keep that thing going. I believe Michigan's defense will be fired up for this game more than ever. And this is the game where Alex Orji has his best game. And Michigan's defense, everybody has their best game. And I know Ohio State has them players, but until I see... Here's the thing. Ohio State, that brings me back to my point. Ohio State's always had great players, but they have failed to deliver. Not because of the players, but Ryan Day. He thinks, now I'm getting these players. The problem are the players. That's what he's basically saying when he went out and went out to the transfer portal and got all them players. That ain't the problem. You're the problem. Have your players better, okay? Ohio State didn't really change much on that coaching staff. They have not played 4 quarters of defense. They showed it in Michigan last year. They showed it in Missouri. Now, that really wasn't the problem. I mean, there a lot of that, the quarterback and Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't play, so anybody would have struggled too. But Notre Dame, they did not play 4 quarters of defense. They got pushed around at some point. I don't see it. Until I see that change, I don't care who they get from the transfer portal. Michigan wins the turnover battle. They win the line of scrimmage. They eat up a lot of that clock, and they pull off a huge one. Heck, they won last time they went over there. I know they had the sign stealing thing, but you getting pushed off the ball and turning the ball over, what does that have to do with somebody knowing your plays? Especially when you have superior players on paper than what Michigan has. There's no excuse. You're going to have to keep coming up with excuses. Give me Michigan 31-23 in a big upset win to keep Ohio State out of the playoffs. So there you have it. I got Michigan going 9-3. At worst, they could be 8-4. At best, they beat Oregon and they beat everybody else except Texas and probably USC. 10-2 at best, 8-4 at worst. But Michigan will have a good year. They will be bowl eligible. I believe they win their bowl game because most of their players will come back and they'll be even better next year. But they lost too much. There's too many question marks for me to say that they make the playoff, they win the Big Ten, and all that. Otherwise, I would pick them to win the whole thing. But there you have it. Michigan has another great year and beats Ohio State again.